able to get rid of my telephone number, which is pretty cool.
Basically being able to have a quantum encrypted simulcast to 1 million or more people simultaneously is not something you can do on anything right now. And we've been testing, we just did a test with 100,000 people. This is our first go live. I'm sure it will not be perfect. But if you'd like to help us, we're going to send to the group here. I probably don't want to have everyone here to do it, but we're going to send to the group here a link so that you can actually test it and see it as well. It's very easy to get in. You just basically say, it'll prompt you, and you just say you want to go through the browser. And then you should be on mute already, so it should be muted. And just go ahead and turn your volume all the way down since you're sitting here, but you can see how it works. We're also going to do that with the people that are on the live cast, because if you haven't noticed, Telegram is acting funny here. I'm not able to, are you guys, who's having problems with Telegram right now? Only a few. Okay. I'm having, it's like super, super slow, and it's not allowing us to do simulcast for some reason, which is kind of strange, right, Gabriel?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but hey, that's also why we created Orion Meet, which is really cool. I've been using it for telephone calls and everything. It's pretty awesome. And very soon you'll be able to go in the next rev of Orion Messenger. You'll be able to go in, find someone in your contacts, and then just call them. You don't need their telephone number. It will basically call them, and they can either elect to receive the call or not receive the call, obviously. And you can add 1,000 people in that, or 10,000 people, or 20,000 people. Pretty cool. Try that on Zoom. Not so easy. Really not easy, and it's not encrypted, and all your data gets taken. So I'm super excited about this, and it's part of this global throat chakra opening. But we have to find alternate channels so that we can have these open conversations as the world continues to transition the way that it is. So, with that, Matias, where is Matias? There it is. There it is. Matias, take us away.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Well, this is the only time that I will be with you. I have some other things to do. And this is not my time to be so long in Egypt. As maybe some of you know, for me, everything that I do is actually a mission or an adventure that I have to accomplish. So for me to be here is not a random thing that I choose to speak today, because I was reserving this day for something important, and I didn't know exactly what. Today, February 2nd, is the middle point between solstice and equinox. So from December to March, it's a middle point, so it's a portal day. And a few years ago, so for me this day is very representative and important for the task that I have been doing. And so this 2025, I know that it's a year to correct certain things for a task that will start in 2026 until 2029, to prepare us for a new level of consciousness in 2036. So, for me, today is a middle point in which we set a course of information and data towards a specific angle in this reality to help us go through a specific timeline that will help us correct certain things of the system in the next years. So there's a lot of things to explain about this, of course, but I won't explain the whole thing because it's going to be too much. I would rather, more than talking, to set you ready for the task so you can discover that in the next days by yourself. So, for sure, many of you are here because you are wondering, you are looking for information, you are trying to know more, but for sure, most of you are here because you know you are in a mission, and maybe some of you don't know yet why, or what is your part. But in the system that we are in this planet, we are all neurons of this mind. So we cannot access the right information if we don't activate ourselves together. So that's why we connect, we travel, we go certain places, because it's the same thing as a neuron would connect with another cell, would access certain data to spread information to other places. So sometimes it looks like you are traveling on a holiday or just a random trip, but you're actually harvesting data, information to take to some other place for another neuron to use. So even if you don't know why you're here, just be open to receive that information so you can give it to someone that might need it. So in my case, what I do is to kind of repair the system of neurons. So my work is basically to wire those points. And of course I explain a lot of things, but I rather do. And I rather go to places and do weird shit. So that's my normal thing. To create systems so the information can be downloaded. So what we're going to do before we leave from this room is to set the structure and the energy for everyone to connect to this territory, to embody this territory, and to unlock certain specific data for you to be able to receive this information and to work with this information during these next days. So the question, first of all, is why are we here? And of course it's not because of Robert. Besides that, it's because, of course, in different levels, we're all here trying to repair something that, from the point of view of the universe, it was never broken. It is all fine. There's no problem at all. But we created a problem that we are trying to solve. So this timeline and reality in the universe won't transform itself until we find all the possible ways to solve that problem that we have created. So if we ask to the divine would say, I don't know why you worry about, because I don't exist. So I have no problem. I have nothing to fix. But even though each one of you are here because at some point you know that there's something that needs to be changed. That everyone knows that there's something that is out of tune, out of place, and we need to fix it, we need to correct it. And sometimes it's just to know yourself better, because you have been pushed away from your direction in your life, so you're trying to find a course again. So this is not a human thing. I know that humans like to be special, but for example, myself here, I am a human, but the only reason why I'm a human is because it's easier to find the mistake through a human mind than other types of consciousness. Because basically, the mistake was created in the human mind. But here, myself, I'm not working for humans. And that's something I have struggles with sometimes. Because humans want to be the center of everything. They think they are the solution and the problem of everything. And that we are, I don't know, a special race that are bounded by love and whatever. But actually, we are just one tiny little part on a chain of a lot of things that are happening in different dimensions, in different realities. And our actions are very important, but we are not the ones that are the most important here. So actually we are repeating a system that was created in a molecule level. So the only ones that are trying to solve this problem are just a few tiny little gods that are called silica, carbon, hydrogen. Those are the only ones. Those are the only gods that have been trying to find billions of ways to repair something that was missing in a link between all of them. So we are just a path, another structure that has been created by those divinities trying to solve a problem that they have in that level of consciousness. And we are an expression of all of them. So I don't know how often do you think or realize that actually you are a construction of those tiny little creatures. But we sometimes forget that every time that we breathe, we are receiving God of oxygen and nitrogen. So we are actually a consequence of these beings that are trying to repair something that one of them lost. And since then, every living being is trying to fulfill that lost. Trying to connect each other until they find a link to repair that structure. We call it the rainbow bridge in human tradition. But actually, it's basically a fractalization of only one photon that has been broken by mistake. And now we see something that is beautiful, which is rainbow, colors, diversity, beauty, creation. But all of that is just perceived because something is out of its real angle. Just because something went out of itself. The only reason why we perceive this beauty is because we are living a beautiful mistake from the point of view of one atom, the only one that exists. So everything that we're trying to do here is to relocate those structures and to put them in the right angle, the right position, in order to find, again, the bright light or the real photon that is actually combining all the consciousness of the universe. So again, the question is, why do we have to do this? If for the universe, it's actually not a problem, if it's beautiful. But even though we know that a photon is fractalized in different colors, we still fight in between those different colors. Like, which one is better? Gabriel, the Archangel Gabriel, or Michael, or one race or the other? We still fight to see who has the truth. What God is better, what information is better, what is the right way to do it, to do something, to solve a problem. So we have one spectrum at the right, one spectrum at the left. So we separate only one photon in different motions. So the problem that we are facing here is not a universal problem, it's just a mind problem. And the reason is because in the entire universe is basically 3 levels of consciousness: conscious, unconscious, and subconscious. This Holy Trinity is the one that helps one particle to be perceived. So you need the 3 in order to combine and observe the only possible reality. But when one of those 3 lose the point and observe something that is not the point, it means we lose the focus. When we lose the focus and the observation point of the entire universe, suddenly in quantum, we create billions of possibilities just because we looked aside instead of the center. So just because we looked aside, and by saying we, I'm saying just one being, one reality, looked outside the way, suddenly we are trapped in a constant multiplication of possibilities that are just slices of only one point of observation. So basically everything that exists and we are looking for is just because we are out of focus, just because we are out of our center. That's why we say, go to meditate, close your eyes, look for the third eye, center in your heart, go back to yourself, and all this Chinese cookies messages that everywhere are telling us, you are the one that matters, go to yourself, observe within, change your point of view, blah, 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 blah. And all these philosophies and stuff are basically a mindset that is keeping us all trying to remind us, hey, we have to observe the reality, the point zero of observation in order to find the truth. But what happens with the truth? It's boring. The truth is boring because it's nothing. When you observe clarity in the point, you become everything. And when everything goes back together to the one point of origin, suddenly everything stops existing. So suddenly it's nothing. So when it's nothing, you become everything. But in order to become everything, you have to be nothing. And then you are trapped in a concept, which is, in order to be everything, I have to disappear. So if I disappear, who am I? And that's one of the main concepts that are trapping us, because we all want to survive. We all want to describe the universe from our point of view, from who we are, from Matias these days. So Matias is going to try to survive as much as possible to say, this is me, this is who I am, this is my construct, this is my culture, this is my tradition, this is my language, this is my belief, so I can hold tight to a point of observation. So I will never allow myself to actually be in the center. So at the same time that we all are trying to repair and go back to the center of everything, to the middle point of observation, and at the same time, we are all trying to avoid it. And we call that enemy ego. And it's not enemy, and the problem is not the ego. But we like to put something to blame on. So what is ego? Ego comes from Latin and means me. It means the self. So what is ego? Is when you are attached so much to the self that you are not allowing yourself to be everything. So we have an idea of what the self is, and we get stuck with that because it's our point of observation. So we need that in order to not get lost in our minds. So we are looking for data, answers outside to validate the self constantly. But I don't know if you have noticed that the only moment when you actually connect with the divine is when you broke everything. When you enter in a crisis that you don't know who you are anymore. And that moment truth comes. Because now you have nothing to hold on to. So you are everything. So that's why it's so important for us to get lost, for us to forget. That's why the system is constantly trying to avoid for us to grab an idea of who we are in order to destroy constantly the idea of who we are. And the opposite of it, which is we need to exist, we need to divide in order to perceive, is constantly trying to validate, oh, but you are beautiful, you matter, you are important. You know that in the system, sometimes we start to speak with words that validate so much the self that we keep trapped in a system. Beautiful words that we call spirituality, love, consciousness. And all those things that sometimes we say, oh, look, this is the actual truth. We're all love, we're one, and so on. But then when we come back home, we have a shitty inner life. Why? Because we are just validating the self to survive in a system, not to become everything. In order to become everything, we have to release every idea that we have of consciousness, love, self, and all those beautiful words in spirituality that we have been saying to us all the time. So, instead of, in that time, saying, this is the truth, you start to use it in a different way. Again. And you start to play with it. Sometimes you need love, sometimes you need consciousness, sometimes you need math, sometimes you need an adventure. But when the self knows that none of that is true, it's just a tool for you to find the middle point, then you start to be free from every system that you're using. There is one mistake concept that we have, which is the release of everything. We have been said that we have to detach from everything that we are and we have in order to become more spiritual. What it means to be detached, it doesn't mean to leave. It means to understand that everything that exists is just a tool for the being to use. So you can use anything that is around you, knowing that nothing is actually true. So that's what a game is. Now, there's a lot of people that are believing that the game is also true. That's why we are, again, trapped in that system. The game, the reality, nothing is actually true. It's just a perception of the mind trying to find something that has been lost, which is our point of observation, our point of access, the center of who we are. And in order to arrive to that point, we have to use our humanity, but stop thinking as humans. If we keep thinking as humans, we will constantly project humanity into everything. And that's what we have been doing, putting the image of a guy with a beard in the sky that we call God, that actually in our mind is that has been leading us through the desert when we escaped from Africa. So the perceptions that we have in our heads from our biology are being projected into every level of consciousness. So in order to arrive to the actual truth, first we have to destroy our destruction. And you know what destroy means? Is to pull apart the things that were put together. And there's a fun thing about destroy, which is basically to say, to get out of Troy. You know the story of Troy? That's not etymology, but it's a code. The story of Troy is something that I would encourage everyone to understand, because it's related to everything that is happening to us every time. I won't go deep into the story of Troy, then you can read it, but just have in mind that there's a Holy Trinity in that story that is fighting to one another to see who is better. And the reason why they're fighting for who is better is because someone gave them the fruit of the tree of life and said, only one deserves this. So the 3 points of observation instead of the three observing the same point, they started to fight for who owns that fruit of life. And that created something that is called dissonance or discord. In music, if you have three notes, you create a chord. If those three notes are not aligned, so you have discord. So that conflict is the one that we have constantly within ourselves. Mind, emotion, and body. These three levels of consciousness that are not aligned one to another. So Troy was a symbolism on how when you are not aligned, you allow viruses to come in, to take over. And then, when you try to escape the virus, you just spread it. You know that the Trojans, when they escaped, founded Rome. Do you know that, the story? So, if you read that story, the Trojans, when they escaped from the Greek people, they went to Italy and the peninsula, and they founded Rome. So, even today, our system is designed by Rome, which means that we are all living as the Trojans. So all our consciousness and awareness is basically aligned with that distortion of that story. And that story started in the northwest of Turkey. The northwest of Turkey is a specific point in the planet that represents the pineal gland of the kundalini of the planet, the snake that moves the energy of the entire world, is Turkey. So now let's have this remembrance. I said to you at the beginning that the only thing that exists is just these chemical elements, these frequencies and particles that are trying to combine to find a mistake. So that's why everything is a fractal. Because we're just fractalizations of that specific elements, those specific elements, that are trying to combine to figure out something. So when we start to connect with ourselves in that specific level of consciousness, we start to see the patterns everywhere. We can see the fractalization of all the system everywhere. And that's when we can get crazy. Why do we get crazy? Because when it's Matias trying to figure that out, you get crazy because your mind is trying to solve everything with your ego. But when you allow yourself to just release the ego and recognize that if everything is a pattern, it's not me who has to solve it, it's the mind of everyone that has to solve it, then you allow yourself to expand so people that knows how to solve it show up, like my life problem. I don't know about numbers. I don't know how much is 2 plus 2. So, since I was 12, I was asking my guides, how can I solve a problem that is based in math if I don't know math? And my guides told me, because you are thinking as Matias. You have to release the self in order to know that someone else has already figured it out. You just have to put the pieces together. And that's what we are doing here. So when we are trying to solve the things just by ourselves, we miss a lot of data and a lot of information that is around. So sometimes it's not about looking for it, it's allowing yourself to be found. That's why myself, every day I post more weird things. And it's so confusing sometimes that people don't understand why am I doing this. Like, why is Matias with the Pope? Why is Matias with this? Where is there? Why now is here? No one knows. But the reason why that is happening is because I'm just triggering the people that knows why I'm there to activate that information and data. So everything is a fractal. So when you allow yourself to be a tool for that fertilization of those chemical elements, then you understand that Earth is also that. So Earth is like us, and we are the Earth. And the solar system has chakras also, like we have in our bodies, and the universe is the same system. So we just project the same system once again in a bigger scale or a tinier scale. So having that in mind, if you have to design your kundalini in your body, how would you do it? You would start at the root chakra, designing a spiral that is energy that activates in your crown. So there you have the snake. Okay? So if you follow that information goes through the spine. So it means that every vertebra is a specific territory where that information will be activated. Now, we are standing up, but actually, we are born like this. We are created in the shape of Earth with specific Fibonacci structure, which means that in the planet, you have that exactly in the same position as your spine, starting in Turkey and following all the mountains, the range mountains of the world, ending in Tierra del Fuego in Chile, Argentina. That's the tail of the snake. And the head, Turkey. So, in the system it says something is dissonance in Turkey. So, how can we balance the head of the snake? Because the snake has something in this part of the face, which is poison. Yeah? How do you say it? Fangs? Fangs. So, the fangs, if you go to the geography, you will see that Troy is right there in the fang of the snake. So, that is poison. But the poison is to defend itself, not to kill. I have to defend the knowledge that is in the mountains. So I have to protect this territory. So this is the poison. Now, in order to transform the reality, we need to transform poison into medicine. And for that, you have to